While making another video on the topic of the Powerpuff Girls in the 2016 reboot, I found I had a lot to say about the episode Arachno Romance. By the way, great title. However, I felt it was all an extended tangent and didn't really relate to the topic. So I decided to talk about it all on its own. Because this episode is very special. It would be boring if it weren't so infuriatingly stupid. Seriously, this may be the dumbest episode of anything ever. And I'm not going to talk about the voices or the clunky animation or the flubs. Just the story and the character design and how it all relates to...
Girls, this is Dr. Sapna Nehru.
Quick summary. Basically, the professor invites a lady scientist over for TV night. Okay, first off, you don't turn a regular event with other people into a date. And if you do, you run it by everyone first. That way things don't get so awkward. And second, it turns out Sapna here, who specializes in spider biology, is just really annoying.
My whole life has been leading up to this moment.
I read online today that in the end, it turns out the Gorblaxian meter maids were ghosts the whole time.
Hello, darkness, my old friend. I've come to talk with you again.
The professor, too, because he's this close from making out with a strange woman he just introduced right in front of his kids. Sapna seems weirded out by this, too, and bails.
What
Girls.
Just then, the girls get a call to stop a giant spider from... walking around. Yeah, it's not really destroying anything. The girls do more damage trying to kill it. And if you think it's weird that a giant spider just happened to show up after a woman obsessed with spiders left, don't worry, the cartoon is all over that.
What are you doing here?
I was just here to study the big spider, because I study spiders. Remember how I said I study spiders? Well, anyway, I'm off to buy some discount, bags of meat.
Wait a sec. That's not the way to the discount bags of meat store.
So, yada yada, the girls send a Dear John under the professor's name, and Sapna breaks up with him. In turn, the professor falls into a depression so deep, he's not the slightest bit concerned that his neckbeard has taken over his torso. And perhaps beyond. The girls confess to Sapna, but apparently she already knew the professor didn't send the note. However, she still broke up with him because, due to a lab accident, whenever she feels an intense attraction to someone, she turns into a giant spider.
I am not kidding.
And they brush over this lab accident with a line at the tail end just to give you the courtesy of knowing what the hell's going on.
I was in a lab accident.
In the original series, you would have had this dark, intense flashback to explain the tragic origins and show the character's emotional torment. But hey, if you've seen one lab explosion, you've seen them all, am I right? It's not like animation's a visual medium. And if she knows this will happen, why was she dating the professor?
I never wanted to put you in danger.
Really? 'Cause you did the one thing that would put him in the most danger. And it wasn't like these two were just friends when he invited her over.
Sorry I'm late, Cuddle King.
Ah, gay.
This is like a werewolf planning a date on a full moon. I know this is probably a bad idea, but it's half-price appetizers at Applebee's. And by the way, after the second fight, she's basically naked. But at the end of the first one, she's got her clothes. So she knew she might change into a giant monster and brought a second pair just in case? Or she had enough time to strip in a bush and carry her clothes on her until she changed back, and I am thinking about this way more than the writers did. It might have been alright if she had said, I was working on an antidote and I was using the professor to test it. That would explain why she thought it was okay to do what she did. And why does she have to leave the professor now? It seems like he was the only thing that could get to the real Sapna.
Professor?
Is that Sapna?
It might be beneficial to keep him around. Plus, he's a damn good scientist, too. Maybe he could help with a cure. But he must be a really bad kisser if this didn't set her off. That, or maybe the body beard just scared her off. This story is just a mess, and I don't know what the point was. You have a character that doesn't seem to grasp her own condition and has reckless abandon. What deep social issue are you tackling here? Diabetes? Doctors say they're gonna take my foot away, but I just can't stop eating Democlares. And now for a bit of criticism on her character design. Not that there's exactly anything wrong with Sapna's design, mostly. It's just... one of the strengths of the original series was its strong character design. You could tell a lot about each character and how they act just by looking at them. Everyone in the new series just looks kinda... round. On 4chan, they had a thread about redesigning her character, and people came up with some good stuff. But that got me thinking, how would I redesign her character? Which of course led into how I would rewrite this character. Now I think there's two ways you can go with this. You can make her an ice queen, someone who's just unemotional, and maybe a little bit embittered by the fact that she can't fall in love. So she keeps everyone at a distance and only focuses on her work. She's very staunch, very matter-of-fact, seems in control and intimidating, and that is her way of staying in control of herself. She's very tall with long, thin limbs and maybe a large backside to mimic the spider's abdomen. She's very well dressed and can be wearing these big Dexter's lab gloves when we first see her, but then she puts them in her lab coat and they stick out a bit, so it looks like she's got some extra limbs. And this may seem goofy, but her glasses and tie should be in the shape of a Black Widow hourglass. It makes her look more grim. And maybe there's some friction between her and the girls, because perhaps she empathizes with the monsters that attack the city. Maybe they can't help being different. That would give the girls a justified reason to not have her around. But eventually she warms up to the professor, which causes all the problems. The second way you can go, and the one I like the most, is to make her very insecure. Nervous. She doesn't want a lot of attention because she's afraid of what will happen. She should definitely be slouching, very demure, and you can't go wrong with the turtleneck. And this is my favorite. You can have her hair up in a bun and have all these little errant locks of hair so it kind of resembles a spider. Also, I think the Black Widow frames are too sharp for her personality, so I would go with square frames. And then put some cracks in the corner of them, as to mimic a window with cobwebs. Again, a visual indicator of her true nature, and that she doesn't really take care of herself. Not that she's a slob, but she's just more preoccupied with other things. And in this version, maybe the girls like her and want her to hang around. But then she gets to know the professor a little too well, and then runs away, and the girls confront her about it. And if you think all this sounds cliche, like, why does she have to be a bitch or a doormat? Why can't she just be a normal person? Well, that's what you got, and it was kind of boring. It didn't make any sense. An extreme condition always leads to an extreme personality. And half the fun of these stories is finding out the characters are more than what they seem. And without those extreme personalities and quirks, well...
It's kind of like when the little plastic thingy at the end of your shoelaces falls off, and you can't get it back through the shoe hole, but then you try and use the tape to fix it, but then the... Shh.
I have to go now. My planet needs me.